Hey everybody, it is your boy N607 here, and welcome to another review video. Today I'm going to be reviewing Stray for PlayStation 5. This game came out a few weeks ago and has gotten quite a good amount of reception, and let's talk about it. I mean, it's a game where you play as a cat. So honestly, how can you really go wrong? Well, I guess we'll go find out. So, let's start off with the presentation of this game. And as I just said, you play as a cat in this game. And it's not just like a cat character, you play as like an actual, like, real life cat. It feels like you're playing like a real life cat, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But seriously, there's not really much else for me to say. It's pretty much like a stealth game. Honestly, the best way to describe this game is that it's similar to that of Untitled Goose Game, which I've also reviewed, but a lot more fleshed out and honestly, in my opinion, better. But yeah, Stray, I mean, really, there aren't really that many games out there that really let you play as animals, let alone good games too, but so, immediate thumbs up for me. And the visuals of this game. God, is this game gorgeous. Playing this game with the performance mode on to get the frame rate at 60 FPS with gorgeous scenery, it's so good. And like, they put so much attention to detail and just all the small things. Like, the environments are just so nice looking with all the whole Cybercity that just doesn't have any humans left, and the only thing left are just these robots and whatnot, that these androids that just roam around. It's really cool stuff. It looks really awesome, honestly. Really good looking game. And now moving on to the story. Now I'm not going to talk too much about the story, but pretty much at the very beginning of the game, you and some other cats check some stuff out, but you, the one orange cat or whatever its name is, falls down a little thing. You eventually fall and leave behind the other cats, and you kind of are supposed to find them, I guess, but eventually you start learning more about this Cybercity. You eventually come across an android that helps you out called B12, and that's pretty much that. You pretty much just figure out what's going on and try and get back there while restoring the city. The story's pretty good, and there's a lot more to it. Like, what I just said is a pretty brief summary of it. There's a lot of lore in this game. It's not even necessarily just told to you throughout the main story, but even some like extra stuff contains some extra lore that's really cool to see. Overall, the story in this game is pretty solid, honestly. Really, really good. Way better than Untitled Goose Game's non-story. But now moving on to the gameplay of this game. Now, like I said before, it's similar to Untitled Goose Game where you play as a cat. And there's not really that much you can really do. You can meow and whatnot. You can hop along various platforms, which in most other games, a lot of these props wouldn't be traversable, but you're a cat, so you can do a lot more. So you can climb these landscapes and climb across rooftops and whatnot. It's some really good stuff. Most of the time, you're pretty much just going in a linear path. It's not really too non-linear. There's a couple of parts where it's non-linear, but most of the game is pretty linear. You just try and get from pretty much point A to point B, trying to figure out like some kind of objective, like getting some sort of item or something like that in order to progress and whatnot. There's not really a whole lot to the gameplay, but what is there is really cool. It's really unique and very different. And while it may not be the most in-depth gameplay ever, it doesn't need to be. It's a game where you play as a cat. Do you really want it to be that deep? Not really. Honestly, no. But gameplay-wise, it's really, really solid. It's not the best gameplay like of all time per se, but like it's really good for what it is. And like I said, like I kind of mentioned before, it really makes you feel the exaggerated swagger of being a cat. It gives me goosebumps every time I play this game. It just feels so good to play as a cat because, I mean, I'm honestly, being completely honest, I love cats personally, so this game is absolutely for me, and it just feels so good. I like it a lot. And overall, yeah, gameplay is pretty good. And now moving on to the controls in this game. The controls in this game are pretty fine, but since this is a PlayStation 5 game, there's also the whole thing with like haptic feedback and adaptive triggers. They're not the best per se, but it's not like the game really needs them. But I do kind of wish there was a little bit more resistance, at least for like running or something like that. Like you press down on R2 and it kind of fights back a little bit to kind of make it feel like you're actually like picking up the pace. I think that'd be a nice idea, but it's not like the worst thing ever. It's a very minor nitpick. Nothing that big. Control-wise, the game works really well. And content-wise. Now, I believe the game was like $30 or so, or maybe it was less than that. Maybe like $25. somewhere along those range. This game is not very long. To be completely honest, you can beat the game in under 2 hours. I know that for a fact because there's a trophy in the game that basically tasks you beating the game under 2 hours. The game itself, on your first playthrough, will more than likely take you around like 5 hours or something like that. And to be honest, it really isn't that long, and part of me does kind of wish they made it a little bit more long, but it's really not that big of a deal. Honestly, it's great the way it is. And honestly, I do kind of see what they were going for. They wanted the game to be very replayable with multiple playthroughs, so much so that you'd eventually get more and more fast with the game, that eventually you'd be able to finish the game really efficiently. But yeah, content-wise, the game is pretty solid. And music-wise and soundtrack-wise, it's good. I wouldn't say it's like amazing. It mostly focuses more so on ambient sound, so there is some times where the music really starts to kick in, which is pretty solid, but I wouldn't really say there's any tracks from the game that really stick with me at all. I don't know. These kind of ambience type of games never really have the music that sticks with me the most, personally. Not saying the music here is bad, but it's just not as memorable as like other games. But it's the least of the problems. The ambience noise is still really solid regardless. It's just nothing really stuck or was like super amazing. And now moving on to my final thoughts on this game. This was a pretty short review, but this is a really solid game. Like, I'll be honest, this is up there as a potential contender for Game of the Year for me this year. Because honestly, like, Game of the Year this year, I really don't know what it could be, but I think this game could be up there as one of the better games this year. This game goes with a unique premise as playing as a cat. It's actually fun, it's beautiful to look at, it has a lot more underneath the surface than you would expect. And while the gameplay is not necessarily the best per se, it's fun, and it's just super good. Honestly, if you have a PC, PS4, or PS5, please play this game. It is so goddamn good. Please play it. It's really, really good. Especially if you played Untitled Goose Game, because while I like Untitled Goose Game, I had some issues with that game that Stray completely addressed. I know they weren't made by the same people, but Stray feels like a much more complete game. Stray has a story going on, there's more objective as to what you're actually doing, and I like it a lot. So on my scale of 0 to 10, I give Stray a solid 8.5 out of 10. Really solid game, cannot recommend it enough, enough. I really, really hope we can eventually see a sequel to this game, because there is so much they could do with the sequel. I want to see some more. I want to see more stuff like this, honestly, in general. Not even just like more sequels to Stray, but like more games like this in general, where you play as like an animal. These are very unique premises, and like there's stuff like I said before, Untitled Goose Game and like Goat Simulator, but I don't know, I feel like Stray just does it right. It feels more like a game. It's not just a sandbox game or a game that doesn't really... It's good, but it just, I don't know. I want to see more stuff like this in general. Keep it coming. Keep those sequels coming. Please do it. But anyways, thank you guys for watching the video. Let me know if you've played the game, and if you have played the game, let me know what you think of it down below. If anyone doesn't like this game, then I'm deleting their comments, because your opinions are not valid here if you dislike the game. Because this game is amazing. And if you haven't played the game, well, then why did you watch this review? I mean, you gave me a view, so I'll give you that. Also, like and subscribe if you're brand new. I'm going to make some more videos and whatnot sometime soon. Like, as in later this week. So, yeah, make sure to subscribe to see some more stuff like this. But anyways, I'm going to get going now. You all have a great day. Or a good night, or whatever it is. Have a good night. Peace out, everybody. Take care.